I like that. Okay. I would love to believe that my technological woes could not get worse, but it's almost certainly not true. There's a little VGA adapter that I need for my new tablet. I've lost it. Of course I've lost it. It's losable, therefore I lost it. So I borrowed a laptop that I think was probably made in the 18th century. It doesn't have a tablet. But guess what? I found the stylus that I lost at the beginning of the semester that works with a laptop that I broke in September. So maybe the adapter will wind up showing up sometime next year. Who knows? In the meantime, we're going to move on to a new topic. That's not how this works. So we're going to move on to a new topic, which is probability inference. You're all debating whether or not you should go and try to find my adapter. Is that what the sudden buzz was? Yes. Okay. Not during class. So new topic. Final topic for the semester, which is, Andrew, you should know better. No clicker today. Oh, yeah, right, sorry. So as soon as I thought that my technological woes couldn't get worse, they did. This doesn't have the clicker software on it, and I was unable to get the clicker software onto it, so I can't use the clicker base. So, yeah, I mean, just at a certain point, you just have to give up. So no clicker today, and what I'll do is I'll just give all of you an extra free pass. And those of you who only came here for the clicker, what? No, I'm sorry, you can't. Wait, do you mean to say that your devotion to the clicker questions is so slavish that you actually sit here when you need to go to the bathroom in case you miss a clicker question? Wow, that is an unintended consequence. I had never thought of that. Okay, so what is the point of all that? The point is this. No clickers today, extra free pass. Moving on to a new topic. The new topic is probability inference, and in particular, Bayes' rule. Have you guys heard of Bayes' rule? Okay, so one of my goals, I'm going to go through similar kinds of steps that we've been through in each section so far. I'm going to talk about sort of the rational model of how people are supposed to infer probabilities based on information that we get from outside of ourselves. And then I'm not going to go quite through so formalistically through the steps the 6 steps before, but we will see examples. In fact, well, the first clicker question, which I'll try to do without the clicker, is going to capture you doing this wrong, and then I'll show you other evidence of people doing probability inference incorrectly, and then we'll talk a little bit about how we might come up with alternative models or alternative assumptions. Okay. So here's the first clicker question. What I would like you to do is just circle your answer, and we can, I don't know. The problem is show of hands, right, is it isn't anonymous. But let's see what we can get. Suppose that 1% of the population is HIV positive, some population is HIV positive, and we have a test such that if a person is HIV positive, the test will give a positive result with 99% certainty, right? So if you have HIV, it'll come up HIV positive 99% of the time. And if you're HIV negative, the test will give a negative result 99% of the time, or with probability 0.99. Question is, what's the percentage likelihood that someone is HIV positive if their HIV test is positive? Okay, so without talking to each other, and without, in just, say, 15 seconds, what do you think is the right answer, or most likely the right answer, to how likely it is that if you give some randomly selected member of this population an HIV test, and it comes up positive, that they are in fact HIV positive? Okay, so don't talk to each other, take a few seconds, come up with an answer. It's fine if you guess, that's what most doctors do. I think. Okay, everybody got an answer? So let's do this. Pretend that you're raising your hand on behalf of a friend. So you're not actually revealing anything about your answer, but base that pretense on your actual answer, and then that'll be kind of like anonymous. How many of you say 99%? Okay, 99% accurate. How many of you say 50% accurate? 50% chance. Okay, how many of you said somewhere between 99% and 50%? Okay, fine. And who said 9.9%? No, because you can look at that and know that that's just an extra answer that the instructor threw in to confuse you. Fine, good. So the modal answer is C. A few people saying 99, a few more people saying 50%. We'll come back to those answers. All right, and thank you all for answering on behalf of your friends. Okay, so what do I mean by probability inference? Actually, let me skip ahead to these examples at the bottom of the page. So there's all kinds of situations in life, many of them highly economically relevant and important, in which we, in order to make a decision, we have to have some idea of how likely something is. So, for example, if you're investing in a stock, you have to have some idea how likely it is that that stock will pay off positively in the long run, right? Similarly, and this is my third of these examples, if you are investing in a mutual fund, right? A mutual fund is basically you're hiring somebody or some algorithm to invest your money for you over time. In order to decide which mutual fund to put your money in, you have to have some notion of how likely it is that that mutual fund will perform well over time. And if it's an actively managed mutual fund, which means that there's some specific individual making decisions over time about how to allocate the money in the fund, you need to have some idea how likely it is that that fund manager is good at their job, right? This comes up in medicine. So my second example there is for medicine, a doctor deciding whether to diagnose a patient with HIV. There are doctors are doing this continuously. My father, I hope this doesn't seem inappropriately personal. My father was recently diagnosed with liver cancer. But before he was diagnosed with liver cancer, he was diagnosed with jaundice, right, which is where your skin turns yellow for some reason. Before he was diagnosed with jaundice, he was diagnosed with having some, I think, like constipation or something like that, or a stomach ulcer. Okay. So along the way, the doctor that he was going to see was gathering pieces of information. Okay. So my dad walks in the door. The doctor doesn't know him at all, and so the basic information the doctor has about my father is male human being, 73 years old. That's all he knows. Okay. Weight, height, basic stuff that you get. Then he does a test, right? And I don't know what it is, but where he asks a bunch of questions and he pokes around and feels your abdomen, and he gathers some new information about the patient, and he has to take this information and extract from it some inference. He has to infer from the available information what he thinks might be wrong with my father, right? So let's say that the two possibilities are he has a stomach ulcer, he has liver cancer, right? So a lot is riding on this. If you have a stomach ulcer, you go get some over the counter. I can't remember what is this? Not Pepcid or Pepcid. It's not Pepsodent. It's not. No, there's a stronger thing. Anyway, proton pump inhibitor is what you get. And if you have liver cancer, then you get a Learjet and go to the Mayo Clinic as fast as you possibly can. And so the doctor does some test, gathers some information, and has to do the following sort of calculation, if you will, or inference. Given the signal that I receive about this patient, say, for example, I took an MRI of his abdomen and I found the following little black spots. Given that information, And given what I know or think I know about the different situations that can cause a little black spot like that to show up in an MRI, how likely do I think it is that this person has liver cancer? Okay? And it matters a lot, of course, because going to the Mayo Clinic and getting treated for liver cancer is extremely expensive and comes with about a 10% risk of death. So you don't get this wrong if you possibly can avoid it. Right? So that's another situation where this kind of inference comes up a lot. Security officer deciding who to search. So I'm thinking, this seems to be less of a big hot button issue these days, but for a long time after 9/11, it was a huge issue. Right? Racial profiling at airports and border controls on the basis of skin color or facial features or even facial hair. You see somebody who is dark-skinned and has a long beard, and you need to, well, you don't need to, but in fact what happens is that you then find yourself making an inference about how likely that person is to have a bomb in their underpants or their shoe or something, or their shampoo. And again, this is you have a signal, right? The signal is the color of the person's skin, the length of their beard, maybe their clothing. And you need to make an inference based on what you think you know about the likelihood that you would see those things if you were observing a terrorist, the likelihood that you would see those things if you were observing a non-terrorist, right? Things like that. How likely is it that anybody is a terrorist? You take all these pieces of information into account, and you come up on the fly, in the heat of the moment, with a decision about whether or not to pull this person out of the line and pat them down and detain them. And by the way, I don't want to, it's easy to sort of caricature these kinds of policy situations. People, I don't know how it is with the TSA people at security checkpoints, but border control guard, people when you come into the country with your passport and they ask you these questions, they ask you the dumbest of questions, no? They ask you, stupid obvious things like, why are you here? And then they'll ask you things like, oh, where'd you go to college? Right? They think, well, why do you need to know that? Well, we only let people from Ivy League schools into our country. No, it's because they're watching you to see how you respond to an unexpected question, right? Do you hesitate? Well, I didn't have an answer to that question for my fictional character. And if you just say, oh, yeah, I went to Berkeley. I went through security once without my ID. And the guy grabbed me and he's like, okay, so show me a bunch of other stuff with your name on it. I happen to have my faculty ID with me. And he said, okay. And he asked me a bunch of questions about, where you work and da-da-da. And then he said, this was at San Francisco, SFO. And then he said, if I went to Top Dog, what would I order? Really? Because a terrorist wouldn't know. Right? And of course, I told him that he would probably order a bird dog or a lemon chicken. And he said, okay, fine. Because it wasn't that it was that that put him into, okay, now I know I'm getting signals from this person that increase my subjective assessment of the probability that this guy is who he says he is. Right? His story is consistent. He says he's a professor at UC Berkeley. He ought to know Top Dog. Right? And I did, fortunately. Why? I don't know. Because most self-respecting faculty members don't go to Top Dog, but there it is. So I'm going to talk a little bit next week about racial profiling and police pullovers, police stops. Which is a very hot button issue in this country, right? And it's related to the kinds of decisions that cops have to make continuously. Most recently, in the news, the decision of whether or not to draw and fire your weapon. And cops have to take into account all kinds of pieces of information very rapidly, and they have to make decisions very rapidly. And for them to do so in ways that are, in some sense, economically efficient, which is to say, rationally maximizing the net benefits to them or to society or to the police department, whatever of their choices, they should be using Bayes' rule. Okay? Or what I should say, because this is what economists actually claim about their models, is not that they should be using Bayes' rule, but that their decisions should be consistent with Bayes' rule. They should make inferences and make decisions as if they were using Bayes' rule. Okay? Bayes' rule is, and this isn't a situation where we impose some kind of arbitrarily chosen assumption, like people are rational. People's preferences are rational in the sense of having a consistent rank order. This is a situation where we can say, no, I can show you mathematically that the only way to do this right is Bayes' rule. Right? So when I say rational probability inference, I simply mean getting it right. Okay? And then you come with, well, why would people not get it right? Maybe it's because they're crazy and irrational. Maybe it's just because they don't know math. Right? So one of the things Matt Rabin likes to say, which I find completely hilarious and didn't understand the first couple of times he said it, he said, if you're pursuing graduate education, you know that admissions committees care a lot about your GRE score, and you know that your lifetime earnings depend a lot on where you are admitted. So the rational, even just income maximizing choice when deciding what score to get on the GRE is to get an 800. Right? If you don't get an 800 on the mathematical portion of the GRE, you are demonstrably irrational. Because you should have just gotten an 800. Right? Except maybe you're not that good at math. Okay? So when we make an assumption like, rational consumers or rational agents make probability inferences using or consistent with Bayes' rule, it's a little bit like assuming that people automatically know enough math to get an 800 on GRE. Because actually Bayes' rule isn't that much more complicated than how to compute the volume of a sphere, which I think was the hardest question I got on GRE. And I don't know the answer. You hold it in your hand and puzzle over past spheres you've seen. So we're into a new realm of rationality, right? Where previously there's been a lot of sort of I've said over and over again, look, we make these assumptions that carry with them some sort of normative stance or philosophical stance about what people should or shouldn't do, or what we think that how they should or shouldn't make decisions. This is a situation where there really truly is a right answer, okay? And it can matter a great deal. All right, so let's consider how we do this, right? General, so the general framework. This is tough not having a stylus. Does this help a little bit? So the general framework here, no, not really, is that people infer probabilities from a combination of information from past experience or past knowledge and new information from the situation they're faced with at the moment. Okay, so here's what we typically get right. Okay, so in all this stuff about probability inference, and the larger topic of the larger field of what's called judgment and decision making, JDM. So we're dabbling in an extremely large field of psychology and economics called judgment and decision making, which is actually largely it's often taught in business schools. It's largely informed by psychologists. So what do we get right? We typically get right the pieces of the puzzle. Okay, we have some correct intuitive notion of what should matter. So let me give you a dumb example: whether to see the new Spielberg movie. Now, Steven Spielberg has kind of petered out as a movie maker, right? So this is the less and less relevant example. So suppose you've seen numerous Spielberg movies in the past. So you've seen Schindler's List, and you've seen E.T., and you've seen Private Ryan, and whatever else. You've also read reviews and heard from friends who've seen this particular movie. Okay, so you have information from past experience, you have new information. What we typically get right is the idea that if in the past your past experience with Spielberg movies is that you generally like them, then that should be relevant to this decision. And that gives us sort of a baseline probability of liking the new movie, right? So if we think about the new movie, if we don't know anything about it whatever except that it's made by Steven Spielberg, then the sort of rational assumption about how good it is to say, well, it's probably about as good as the average Spielberg movie, right? Because knowing nothing else about it, I start with the average, you know? And that is what is referred to as the base rate. I keep doing that. That is what is referred to as the base rate of liking the new movie, the baseline probability based on past experience. Okay? Then we're going to adjust that base rate using new information, which we call signals. Okay? So assuming that your tastes are in some way correlated with reviewers and your friends' tastes, right? Then if your tastes are positively correlated with your friends' tastes and they like the movie, you say, so maybe this is one of Spielberg's better movies, right? This is, I told you this is a dumb example. It's very obvious. The point is simply to show you that this comes up all the time in ways that you know what to do intuitively, and you're right. Okay? So these are the correct pieces of the puzzle, and this is how Bayes' rule works. What we get. So how the pieces are supposed to fit together, we typically understand qualitatively how base rates and signals should affect, right? So if you've liked Spielberg movies in the past, then holding the opinions of critics and friends constant, if you're someone who likes Spielberg, you should guess, your inference about the probability of the movie being good should be higher than someone who doesn't like Spielberg. And similarly, if other tastes are strongly correlated with yours, you should adjust your probability estimate toward, or if positively correlated or away from their opinions, more than if your tastes are almost unrelated to theirs, right? So this is a situation where you need to take into consideration your past experience with Spielberg movies, the opinions of people you know who've seen the movie, and how strongly correlated your tastes are with those. And if you have those three pieces in place, you're going to be moving in the right direction. And my guess is that on the basis of introspection, you can all say, yeah, that's how I make decisions about what movies to go to, right? I just go to Fandango and look at the tomato, whether it's a splatter of, I just look at Rotten Tomatoes for the most part. So here's what we get wrong, right? People understand qualitatively how to do this stuff, but they don't actually do it right quantitatively. So this is like the GRE math score, right? We all know a bunch of math, but we don't do the math quite well enough to get the 800 on GRE. So why? Because it's hard. And it turns out that the mistakes that we make, you might think, okay, well, people get math wrong in various ways. Sometimes their answers are high, sometimes their answers are low. People guess at probabilities, how likely is it that the Giants will win the Super Bowl? Sorry, the World Series again next year. You have some information, but basically you guess, and maybe you guess high and maybe you guess low. We don't care about that. We don't care about people just not knowing and making guesses based on some information, but then their guesses being sort of sometimes high, sometimes low. The reason we don't much care about that is because if mistakes are sometimes high, sometimes low, they're probably going to sort of come out in the wash in some sense. They'll probably average out, let's say, over time for a specific individual or over the market, right? So for a specific movie, Spielberg might be sitting there saying, oh my God, if people don't do Bayes' rule on their past experience with my movies and the critics whose tastes are correlated with theirs, I might make. But then you say to him, calm down, Steve. Some people are going to overpredict, some people are going to underpredict. On average, you're going to make the right amount of profits. We don't care about that kind of error. What we care about is systematic error. What we care about is errors where either specific types of people or all people in specific types of situation make the same kind of error systematically. Okay? So I said to you the other day, there's these studies, and this is not exactly the right numbers, but it captures the essence of things that 90% of American anecdote, people always say this about male drivers. It's actually true of all drivers. But 90% of drivers think they're in the top 10% of drivers, right? So that's overconfidence. So that is a systematic mistake that people make about, say, for example, the probability. Like when you go and you rent a car, you have to decide whether to get the incredibly expensive insurance for 3 days. I bought insurance for 3 days recently on a VW Beetle that, if I bought it for the year at that rate, would have cost me something like $3,000 for the year. So you have to sort of think to that, and that was because of loss aversion. But you have to sort of sit there, and if you want to do that rationally, what you do is that you sit down and you say, well, how much is the car worth? And how much is the policy going to cost me? And what do I think is the probability that I'm going to crash the car in the next 3 days? And then you multiply, you figure out the expected value, What we're concerned about is situations where people systematically, as a population, overpredict or underpredict how likely they are to wreck the car, right? And if everybody's mispredicting in the same way, or if everybody is doing Bayes' rule wrong in the same way, or getting specific parts of Bayes' rule wrong in the same way, then we're going to wind up with potentially problematic outcomes in markets or in individual decision making. Okay. All right, so here's this. Here's the clicker question that I asked you about. And I'm not going to be able to do it on the screen, So this is actually this is the example that people very commonly use for demonstrating A, how Bayes' rule should be done, and B, an extremely common phenomenon that we think matters in lots and lots of situations, which is called base rate neglect. Okay, and we're going to talk about base rate neglect at some length. So let's back into this by figuring out how you should have made come up with your answer about how likely it is that somebody who gets tested positive using this test is actually HIV positive. Okay, so we have Bayes' rule is all done in terms of hypotheses and signals. Okay, so H. The letter H is going to stand for some hypothesis that we're coming up with a probability assessment of. How likely is it that this following hypothesis is true? So in this case, the hypothesis is that the person is HIV positive, right? So H is the state of the world in which this person is actually HIV positive, and then we have a signal I, which is that their HIV test is positive, okay? Now, the way you ought to do this, or one sort of simplistic way to think about how to model the correct way to do this, is to say, okay, look, there's two possibilities. This is like a two-stage game in some sense. First, nature decides whether or not the person actually is HIV positive or HIV negative with some probabilities, and then the test decides whether or not they are going to test positive or test negative, okay? So I'm just going to do positive and negative there, okay? And then we're going to fill in probabilities. And you can think of this as being like a compound lottery if you've seen that kind of stuff previously. So what's the